Hello, and welcome to the People First Potential channel here on Bright Talk. I'm Deb Calvert, and I appreciate you joining me here today. A couple of things logistically that you should know. If you're new to Bright Talk, you're going to want to check out the attachments tab. It's right underneath the video. And when you click on the attachments, you're going to see a whole lot of goodies, some bonus content that I've made available for you. I'd really like to encourage you to take the PDF of today's slides because if you're taking notes or if you want to have something to refer back to in the long term, those slides may help you to do that. While you're there in the attachments, a couple of other things you might want to do. For example, you might want to take a look at my LinkedIn page. I'd love to connect with you over there on LinkedIn. I'd also like to encourage you to visit People First Leadership Academy because if you like this content, there's a whole lot more over there. It's all free or very, very affordable. And the difference between what we present here and what we do over there is that those presentations are very, very interactive. So come on in, have some fun with us. Sign up for this week. We'll be doing 10 fixes for miserable meetings. Take a look at the Introduction to the Leadership Challenge. It's one of our most popular courses. They're both free. And there's a whole lot more I'd like to encourage you to check out. Something that you could do for me, I'd really appreciate it if you are attending live. If you ask questions throughout our time together, I'll answer those as they come, and they'll be helpful to people who are not able to attend live but might have the very same questions. If you're coming back on demand and you have a question, just be in touch with me through LinkedIn or through my email address, which you see on screen. I always enjoy the interaction in whatever form and whenever it does come to me. At the end of the session, live, on-demand viewers, doesn't matter, please leave a comment. Leave a comment or a review for me because that just helps to improve our future content. I've been presenting here about once a month for the past 6 years, and it's those comments, what you tell me, that helps this to get better and better. Feel free, of course, to offer up any topics that you'd like to see me covering. People First Potential, the channel, it's all about helping people to improve their leadership and their personal effectiveness. Now, today, we're going to be talking about a topic that I'm going to frame up in a slightly different way. This is all about your ability to influence others, to get their buy-in, to get their commitments to decisions that are made or to ideas that you might be offering to them. And as I said, I'm going to approach this in a slightly different way. I'm going to start at a macro level, way up here, talking about the world we live in, talking about, to a certain extent, sellership, because anytime we're selling ideas, selling vision, selling criteria for decisions that we're going to make, just getting people to adopt our ideas and information, in broad strokes, that is essentially selling or influencing. And for that reason, here initially, as we're talking at the macro level, I'm going to use the very generic term of buyers. You as a seller, others as buyers, just to make that distinction in a way that's probably a little easier than all the other less generic terms that I could use. Okay, so starting at this macro level, what I want to do here is set the stage and help you to understand this very, very big picture. Because after we look at that, then we can drill it down. We can talk about the impact and what this means to you, even in personal one-to-one relationships, in or out of the workplace. What I'm showing you is more than a decade old. I think it's really brilliant work from Pine and Gilmore. And it talks about this economy that we're in right now called the experience economy. You're seeing a lot going on in this one illustration. So once upon a time, people, companies, vendors were able to sell pure commodities. You needed corn, you bought corn. You needed coffee, you bought coffee. You needed tools, you bought tools. It was just the item. That's all that we cared about. And as time passed, well, it became more about the branding, about the awareness of brands. These were now goods, not commodities. It was a certain brand of a tool or a food product. and you purchased it because you had some association with that brand. You liked them, you knew them, you trusted them. You were willing to pay a little bit more for a brand that you were familiar with. And we're going way back in time to talk about this, but you'll notice on the left-hand side, we're talking about now there's some differentiation that's occurring, one brand versus another. And the higher you go up this line, the horizontal line, or rather the diagonal line that you see here, the more customized you become, the more people are willing to pay for what you offer. That's your competitive position. And this is true whether you're a big brand name manufacturer or whether you're just another person in the workplace hoping to sell ideas or position themselves in a way that they're heard and understood. That's your premium pricing. All right. So remember, I'm going to give you this context and I'll bring it back down to a personal level here in a moment. All right. Well, brand's no longer enough. Flashback a couple of decades. Then it was all about the service that you offered. Superior customer service. The customer is always right. That's how retailers and others began to differentiate themselves. It wasn't just about their brand name anymore. You went to Nordstrom instead of Macy's because they had this persona, this reputation of providing the very, very best customer service. That caused you to choose them. It caused them to be able to charge more because they were offering something different, distinguishing. Well, here we are. We are now at a place where we live in the experience economy. It's no longer good enough to have the product, the brand name, the superior service. Those are all the great equalizers. Everybody's caught up on those forefronts. Now it's about what meaningful, relevant, personalized, special experience are you providing to your customers? At the macro level, if you're a company, what are you doing that provides an experience that's distinguishing, that causes them to choose you and be willing to pay more for what you have to offer? Please note, though, that we're in the late stages of the experience economy. We are getting into a place where if you want to continue to be differentiated, the experience is no longer enough. You've got to offer something transformative. You've got to offer something that causes people to believe that their time spent with you is going to be a game changer. It's going to make a real difference for them. And that's a tall order. But if you want to capture people's time, charge a premium price, be able to differentiate yourself as a company, you have to do all of these things now. And let me bring this back now to you. See, this is what's happening in the economy, in the world at large. Every company knows this. Every marketing department is scrambling to try to do this. And as they do, all of us as consumers, we're being conditioned more and more to expect that and to accept no less. And it trickles down. It's not just when we are consumers. Now we begin to expect this in all of our experiences that we have with companies, with apps, with the people that we interface with in the workplace, and even in our personal relationships. It's our expectation that people give more to us, an experience that's personal, meaningful, and relevant, hopefully even transformative. So now back on that macro level, here's something else to be thinking about. This customer experience. And remember, I'm using terms buyer and customer very, very broadly. But it matters so much that 86% of us, when we're in the buying mode, we'd be willing to pay more for an emotionally satisfying experience. Emotionally satisfying because it's relevant and personalized. We'd be willing to pay 86% more for that. I'm sorry, 86% of us would be willing to pay more for that than for something that's generic. It's the same for everybody. Emotionally satisfying in the workplace is an important terminology and concept because the work we do, what we get from our employer, it's no longer just a paycheck and the security of a job. We're all also looking for something emotionally satisfying, and we'd be willing, in the inverse of this quote, we are willing to accept less pay when we're given work to do that is meaningful. It feels like we're a part of something bigger. We have a sense of belonging. If this is true, and research says that it is, what that tells us is that in our workplace relationships, we need to have our emotions satisfied. After all, we're whole people. We don't park our emotions when we come to work. The very definition of employee engagement is that people, when they're engaged, it means that they, in their organization, experience a sense of emotional commitment that causes them to apply additional discretionary effort to the work they do. In other words, they pay more, they give more in return, that discretionary effort, when they have emotional connections, emotional payback, emotionally satisfying experiences that cause them then to be willing to exude and put out more additional discretionary effort. Remember, I'm going to keep bringing this back to you more and more. This is everything to do with influence and getting buy-in and commitment. But stick with me. Now, what kind of experience do people want? Still at that macro level. This quote from Michael Dart, who's a consumer strategy researcher, he says that if you want to win their pocketbooks, i.e., their commitment, you've got to figure out how to get to them first, fastest, and more often ahead of your equally compelling competitors. Or you have an option. Or you can give them such an awesome connecting experience that they'll go out of their way to come to you. You don't have to try to do more, better, faster. You just have to be able to give them something the others aren't. This awesome connecting experience, this emotionally satisfying experience, that's the outlay of effort and investment that they're putting in when you are giving them something that causes that emotional satisfaction. And there's one thing above all others that enables you to do this, that enables you to get commitment and buy-in. It's true for consumers and what businesses need to do for them. It's true for managers and what they need to do for employees. It's true for you as a leader at any level to be able to yield back something from others. What it all boils down to is allowing others to be participants in creating what they want. Rather than handing decisions down from on high, you get people involved in those decisions, especially the ones that affect them. And I want to give you this analogy. For those of you who have ever been to the restaurant called Chipotle, they are a brilliant example of what I'm trying to describe here. When you go to Chipotle, you walk in and you go down the line. You say, I'd like to have a burrito. And then you go down the line and you say exactly what you want to have in your burrito. I would like, please, to have the black beans. I would like to have the fajita vegetables. I would like to have the white rice. I'd like to have the red salsa. No, I don't really care for any sour cream today. Could you give me a little more guacamole? It's your burrito. It's custom crafted. You are participating in creating exactly what you want. And if you ever ask a burritoista at Chipotle, they'll tell you that, quite frankly, they only make about 10 different versions of burritos. Right? Chipotle could put up a sandwich board menu up there, and it would say, you'd be able to walk in and say, hey, I'd like a number 3, hold the lettuce. They choose not to do that because they know they can charge more and they can give you a more emotionally satisfying experience when they allow you to be participants in creating what you want. That's the difference between Chipotle and Subway. Subway, too, has a line that you walk down and you're directing the sandwich that's being made for you. The only difference is that at Subway, you started feeling limited because they have a menu board up there. And this is why Subway's prices are the low end. Chipotle's prices are the mid-tier higher end. Chipotle has a hockey stick growth curve. They continue to grow and grow, even though they've had several incidents of people becoming ill as a result of eating their food and getting E. coli and other, diseases. But Chipotle overcomes that. They create a sense of belonging, of inclusivity, of high degree of personal relevance. They allow you to infuse meaning into this burrito of all things that you're making. They allow you to put your own imprint on the product that you're paying for and walking away with. Now, translate this back to the workplace. Every relationship you have, every person you hope to impact, they need to have this Chipotle like experience. They need to be participants in creating what they want, even if it's the smallest little thing like extra salsa, please. You do that by involving people earlier, by asking questions, by listening, by investing time to understand what matters to them. When you do that, you've got the raw ingredients of commitment, deep level, meaningful commitment and buy-in. It is actually all about emotions. Emotional decision making outpaces rational decision making, no matter who you are, no matter what you do. You start with emotion, you use rationale to justify what you're doing, logic and reason to build the case and to confirm it in your own head. But it starts with emotion. You either initially resist or lean into something because you're participating in creating what you want. People are hearing you. You're seeing that your needs are being acknowledged and listened to. And someone's explaining to you why this is something that we should consider. And it's human to human. That's why it's personalized, meaningful, relevant, why you have a chance to put your own personal imprint on it. As I said, someone's investing time to hear you. They're asking questions to understand. They're genuinely interested, not just checking the boxes or going through the motions. Because we're human. And humans, they don't care how much you know unless they know how much you care. In the experience economy, the one that's evolving to become the transformation economy, we've got to take the time to make it one-to-one. Now, I know that I have just said a whole lot there, like fire hosed you with a lot of information really, really rapidly. But this concept, although it's macro, although it's out there in the world of buyers, sellers, consumers, it's relevant. We're all conditioned. We're all being conditioned to think in this way because those are the experiences that we're having. Whether you go to Build-A-Bear workshop or whether you've got the American Girl dolls, even from a very early age, you're learning that these are not just toys, but you had some ability to put your imprint on those toys. It's yours uniquely because you had a hand in shaping and building it. So, as adults, the same thing is happening, whether it's Chipotle, DIY workshops at Home Depot, anything else, you name it. The places where you get to have a hand in creating exactly what you want. Those are the places where you have a higher level of commitment. And commitment matters. It matters to you as a leader to be able to get buy-in and to understand people so that they are genuinely motivated and willing to follow this place to this place that they're trying to get to. So let me now shift. Let's talk about you. No more macro. We're talking about super micro. One-to-one, we're talking about you. We're talking about you because if someone's going to follow you, if they're going to buy into your ideas, they need to know the value that you offer to them. You're going to start to demonstrate that value by giving them an awesome connecting experience where you ask questions, you listen, you sought to understood. You empathized with emotions because emotional is a word we can't leave out of the definition of employee engagement or out of the notion of getting commitment and buy in. Emotion causes people to act far more than reason does. So, to give them a Chipotle experience, you're allowing them to participate in creating what they want. In other words, you are not just delivering insights to them. You're not just telling them what the value is. You're not just handing the solution to them. Instead, there's a process of co creating all of that. You, you're inviting them in. You're asking, in a solution, what would you like to see? What are some criteria that would cause you to think it's a good solution? You're asking, what would be of value to you? What insights do you bring to the table? What questions do you have? It's a two-way dialogue, not one-way delivery. Leaders, this is a big myth about leadership. It's the leader is the person at the top of the org chart who cascades the message down to everybody else who just goes out and executes or follows. Well, that's not true. And if you're leading in that way from an ivory tower, lonely at the top, you're doing it all wrong. That's not anymore what it's all about. Leadership is a relationship. It's two-way. Gandhi said, "I must follow the people. Am I not their leader?" Because leadership is amongst people, with people, for people, not just somewhere out there ahead of them and probably leaving them behind. So it's two-way dialogue, it's ongoing, it's always. And that way, you're able to personalize, you're able to make decisions and bring people into them in a way that's relevant and meaningful to them. And of course, the more they've been involved, the more some of it has been their idea, the more they've contributed, the more at least it feels like they've been heard. Of course, the more committed they're going to be able to be. When I say committed, by the way, I'm not talking about head bobbing. I'm not talking about they said yes because you have authority. I'm talking about committed at a much deeper level. Committed so that even when you're not in the room, they're still doing the things it takes to move forward. I'm talking about you're not the only one who has to advocate. You've got other advocates because they genuinely believe they're committed too. I'm talking about the definition of leadership that comes from Jim Kouzes and Barry Posner. And if you've never heard that one, well, let me encourage you to take a look at some other content here on Bright Talk and the People First Potential channel, or to go over to People First Leadership Academy. I've given you a course catalog as well as a direct link over there so that you can enroll for classes. But this definition that I'm about to tell you from Jim Kouzes and Barry Posner, it will help you to see leadership in a way that will make you more effective, whether it's getting buy-in from others, commitment, or in a whole host of other kinds of things that leaders have to do. The definition goes like this: leadership is the art of mobilizing others to want to struggle for shared aspirations. We're going to take it in reverse order. These aspirations are not yours alone, they're shared. Right? People participated in creating what they want. They had an opportunity for their voice to be heard. They put their own imprint on it. So the aspirations, the place we want to go, the things we want to achieve, those are shared. Not only that, but people want to struggle for those shared aspirations. They're not forced to struggle. They're not paid to struggle. They want to struggle. Intrinsically, something has ignited a spark within them that causes them to want to persevere, to work hard, to keep going, even when the going gets rough, the struggle, so that they can achieve the shared aspirations. It's not willing to struggle, want to struggle. I care about this so much. I believe in this so passionately. I am going to work hard to bring this to fruition. The leader is mobilizing others, getting them to move together in a unified action forward to want to struggle to realize these shared aspirations. And it is an art. It's an art. Every one of us is going to do this just a little bit differently. To be genuine, it's not a blueprint of how, when, what you do. We have some guidelines. They come from Jim Kouzes, Barry Posner, the Leadership Challenge, right? We have the starting point of behaviors, but your personal expression of them needs to be authentic. So it's the art of mobilizing others to want to struggle for shared aspirations. That's you as a leader. If you're going to be leading people, you've got to know what we mean by leadership. In order to make that happen, people have to be able to believe in you. You have to be credible. To be credible, there are some pieces here that I've put on screen for you. There are 5 things that will help you to be more credible. We've already talked about the first one. We'll just call it by another phrase. You want to engage others, involve others in collaborating so that they're having an experience that's relevant, meaningful, and personalized so that they have an opportunity to participate in creating what they want. So that they'd be willing to pay more, i.e., exert additional discretionary effort, work harder, sustain longer to make things happen. Now, it's not truly collaborative unless there's dialogue. That includes disagreement. You should be mining for productive conflict if it's not already in the mix, because commitment comes from people being heard and looking from all the angles and being able to express any doubts that they have. So there's constructive dialogue, and it's two-way dialogue because that's the only way you engender two-way trust. People being able to be vulnerable, being able to express themselves, being able to disagree, and it's still safe. And within all of that process, we're unified by our values that we share. Perhaps it's the vision of the organization overall. Perhaps it's the work that we do and the nobility within that work, something that we have in common. When you're doing all of this, by the way, as a leader, you're also developing capacity of others. As Eleanor Roosevelt said, good leaders cause others to have faith in the leader. Great leaders cause others to have confidence and faith in themselves. So you're developing the capacity by what you're modeling here, by exhibiting this credibility and modeling that this is what it's made up of. You're teaching others to do the same. And you're not taking that credibility for granted. You know, credibility, like anything, is expressed in behaviors. The quality of being trustworthy is most often expressed in your actions. People know they can believe in you, they can trust in you, they can rely on you, you're predictable. And this is so important as the cornerstone of leadership. It's so important because nobody can believe your message if they can't believe in you as a messenger. Keep in mind that the very first evidence of credibility, what people look at first, is whether or not you do WYSIWYD. Do you do WYSIWYD? Do you do what you say you will do? Do you follow up, follow through on your promises and commitments? Or do you make excuses? Oh, I'm so busy. They know I'm so busy. They know my heart, my intentions. I'll get to it when I can. Every time you're disappointing someone, every time that you're not living up to a promise or a commitment that you've made, every time you fail to do WYSIWYD, just know that it has an impact on your credibility, on whether or not people can believe in you in the messenger. Okay, getting buy-in and commitment from people means that they can count on you, that you have credibility, and that you're using it well to understand and listen to and seeking to bring them in to this collaboration. Now, there's a few more things you can do. So let me talk about those. Leaders, effective leaders, people who are able to influence others and mobilize others to want to struggle for shared aspirations. Well, they are persuasive, but they're not persuasive because they were born with some special skill or talent. They weren't charismatic people who, for some, that comes naturally, and for others, well, too bad, you're out of luck. You don't have charisma. You can't be a leader. That's not how it works. Nope. Leadership is a set of learned behaviors. And some of those behaviors will help you to be more persuasive. So I'm just going to give you some super basic tips here. If you'd like to learn more about this, you're going to go over to People First Leadership Academy and sign up for the free course called The Essentials of Personal Effectiveness, because we cover this in much greater depth over there. But here are some starter ideas. Right? You're going to use some of the basics of persuasion. Those basics of persuasion include everything that you see here on screen. I've already mentioned some of them. But to get really good at this, you're going to practice. This is nothing more than choosing. There's everything that you see on screen. You're already capable of doing it. You just have to decide that you're going to do it more deliberately, more strategically, and more thoughtfully. I do want to point out that this is not, absolutely not about manipulating people. Persuasiveness means that you're helping them to see things in a way that is beneficial to them, to the common good, to the individual. They see something of value to them so that they have this shared aspiration with you. Everything else we've already talked about helps you to get to that point so that you can be more persuasive. And now we're down to something a little bit more tactical. When you want to be persuasive, it's a good idea to relate to something that's already familiar to people. Remember that time when, oh, have you seen in the other department what they did? Hey, here's something that I have an idea about because of our experience with. This makes it safer, it makes it more relatable, it makes it easier for people to understand rather than keeping it in the abstract. And to be more persuasive, don't look to sugarcoat things or to hide certain details or to do a big buildup. Instead, do what they do in journalism, right? The inverted pyramid says that you start with the most important information. You describe the end at the beginning, and then you go into those granular details. You build up how and what went into this, right? Cut to the chase so that you haven't made people nervous or apprehensive by the time you get there. Do include some imagery. You're painting a picture. Right? This is what leaders do. They are forward looking and they're inspiring because they help people to relate to things. So they use imagery to create a picture about these possibilities of what could be, but they're not doing it in a way that's all blue sky. It's also realistic. You're plain spoken. You're using simple language. This is not about prettying it up with lots of flowery words, but you're going to use actual examples, plain language. You're going to talk about what might be difficult. You're going to talk about the benefits of doing this despite those difficulties. And you're going to include a call to action. What I would need from you to make this happen is a single call to action so that it's clear, so it's not mysterious, so people understand what they're being asked to do. As much as possible, try to use active verbs, not passive ones. So passive ones, they raise a little bit of suspicion. Let me see if I can give you an example. A plan will be created. Well, what does that mean? Who's going to create this plan? What's required to create that plan? Versus together, we're going to have a series of meetings so we can create a plan. That's different. Now I know who's doing it. I know what the action is. I have an idea of what it looks like for that to happen. Don't forget, anytime there's any change involved, people are squeamish. Right? We get uncomfortable when we're asked to step outside our comfort zone or asked to rock the boat, to get out of the status quo. Even with positive change, we have questions. We have reservations. So Persuasion 101 says that you're going to go ahead and anticipate those questions. And as best as you can, you're going to answer them, or at a minimum, you're going to acknowledge them. You're going to help people to feel confident that you'll get there, that you haven't operated like an ostrich with your head in the sand, ignoring the things that are meaningful to them. Last but not least, you're going to appeal to basic human emotions. Here's that word again, emotions. Human needs include emotional needs. These words, from the world of advertising, we know that these plain, simple words are very, very persuasive. You need to be authentic here, though. This isn't about happy talk. It's not about manipulating people. It's not about thinking that certain words have magic. And it's not about just throwing them in there so you can check the box. We're not going to say, "Hey, if you do this with me, I promise you it'll be convenient. I promise you that you're going to get more acceptance. We're going to be successful. We'll be winning. It's going to be exciting. Come on, you can do this." That's just pablum. It's meaningless. You do this in a way that's more authentic. Pick one or two words. Don't try to string them all together. If it's true that doing this is going to cause us to have a higher degree of safety, well, you use the word safety because that word is powerful. If doing this is something that's been proven elsewhere, say so. Use the word proven because the word proven is a plain, simple word that people can identify with. We're looking to make this persuasive. I'm giving you tips on how to persuade people so they can be more committed, so they can buy in. But I am not at all advocating for you to be inauthentic. So you have a menu of words. Choose only the ones that are appropriate to the situation. As a leader, it's also powerful when you speak in declarative statements. No hemming and hawing, no maybes, no, I'm kind of thinking, sort of. Declarative statements cause people to be confident. Leaders make declarations that no one else will dare to make. They're willing to share their vision by speaking it in a way that everyone can understand and everyone can see themselves within it. And people can be inspired because it's big and it's bold and it's in the realm of dreams. Now, everything that you see on screen here, when these declarations were made, they seemed like fairy tales. But saying it, just speaking it, made it more tangible, more attainable, more like something people could go after. And they did. People got behind these declarations to bring the leaders' words to life. Now, not all of these leaders succeeded in the goals that they declared, but every one of them did advance the higher purpose that they were serving. So, declarations, notice that they start with the words, "I will." And after that words, "I will," comes something powerful. No matter what you put after the words, "I will," it suddenly has a greater meaning and purpose behind it. Let me tell you something else that leaders do that inspires commitment and buy in. Leaders, they speak in the realm of dreams and visions and possibilities, but they also, well, they make sure that people can see that the way forward is clear and that people can feel relaxed and that they can proceed without it feeling like something that's going to be miserable for them. Leaders, let me give you a metaphor if I could. Leaders, they know that when you're driving, if you hit a bank of fog, you're going to slow down, you're going to tighten your grip on the steering wheel, you're going to become hyper focused. It's not going to be much fun. And until that fog lifts, you're going to feel a little nervous. So, what leaders do is they lift the fog. They make it much easier to see further down the road without any obstruction. They make it easier for you because they've given you that clarity, easier for you to go faster, to see the way more clearly, to relax and even enjoy the ride. Leaders lift the fog, and when they do, that's part of what makes them more compelling. It's part of what makes it easier for you to commit because you can see further down that road. You don't have the same apprehensions. Leaders, well, they speak about vision. Vision, that's an ideal and unique image of the future for the common good. All five components of a shared vision are extremely important. More important than any of the five, though, is the fact that it's a shared vision. It's not mine alone. You were a part of it. I gave you an opportunity to participate in creating what you want. And together, we co created this vision that's empowering and ennobling, inspiring, motivating, mobilizing to everybody who's involved because it includes all five components. Now, if you'd like a really, really good example of a speech that includes all five components, I strongly encourage you to go on YouTube and listen to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech, I Have a Dream, because it is a great example of talking about an ideal, of talking at the time in 1963 of something that was very unique. And notice all the imagery that Dr. King weaves into that vision so that everybody, every listener, can see themselves, feel themselves being a part of this dream that he describes. Certainly, it's future oriented. And of course, it's for the common good because everybody can see a benefit to them within that dream that he had. But please notice, things would have been very, very different if instead of saying, I have a dream, Dr. King, on that day in 1963, would have said instead, I have a list of measurable objectives. But isn't that what we do in the workplace? We talk about KPIs and SMART goals, deliverables. We don't talk about dreams. We don't talk about our vision. We don't talk about the things that would be so much more inspiring and exciting to people, so much more ennobling and empowering and enriching to them. Maybe we should. If we were talking about dreams, that's the magic that would stir people into action. Naturally and acknowledgingly, it is absolutely true that we might not reach the ideal, the full dream in our own lifetimes. That's not the point. The point is, every step towards that vision or dream is a good one. We can get closer and closer the more we have gotten people to be committed, the more they buy in to making that progress. No vision is realized overnight. That's just a goal. All vision is bigger and has the purpose of inspiring people so that we can make those incremental improvements. Okay, I think I've answered the questions that were posted. Last call if you have any more that you'd like to ask me here in the live session. While we're taking a look to see if there are any questions, please, I'm serious. I'd like to interface with you over on LinkedIn. I'd like to strongly encourage you to become one of our many, many users who are at People First Leadership Academy, where we've got tons of interactive workshops. They're a lot of fun. And if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to email me as well. This has been part of the Why Wait to Be Great series. We've done one presentation per month here on Bright Talk in this series. If you want to catch up on any of those, you can do that all right here. You can also do that over at YouTube. Please be sure to leave me a review, a comment. I'm very interested in knowing what else you would like to learn about, what else we can offer you that might be of value here on this channel. I appreciate so much that you joined me here today. Be sure and come back next month for more in the series, Why Wait to Be Great? See you next month.